Okay, we are ready to get started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Today's session is very important. Today's discussion, not a traditional session, is very important to have multiple participants because the whole point was to gather people who want to talk about this topic and hear what you guys have to say and contribute more. So in order to do that, we need some, some clapping hands or some likes in the virtual world. If this was a street show, which we know we don't do street show nowadays because of the no gathering due to the corona, I would be the performer, which I'm not. I would probably ask all of you to clap hands very loudly, so we can people around us can understand what's going on or be attracted, because people in the street shows, when they see a lot of clappings, they gather close. So I need you to virtually clap, virtually comment, virtually like, in order to let other people in your environment know, because the whole session today is based on the fact of multiple participants. I'm going to try and talk very little about the topic. And I'm gonna hope, and my hope is, and my preference is that we get an opportunity kind of to discuss it over. So, in the past week, mainly, I would say maybe 10 days, but primarily the past week, there's not been a single day that at least one or two people, I would say probably the requests were all real estate related to me. And that's something, if someone probably is calling to ask as we speak. So this is definitely something that's been the main topic for the past week. And I thought, I don't know if they have the answers. I have some thoughts. The best way to go about it is to talk to others and see what people have to say. So I've been engaged with a lot of conversations with many people in the past weeks, reading opinions, hearing opinions, going back and forth. So for those of you who are coming to this session with the hope that I'll give you a clear-cut answer, that's not going to happen. I wish I could. I just want to kind of create the discussion. So today is about, it happening or will happen, or what are the good scenarios, the negative scenarios, the possible scenarios when it comes to real estate at large. I have some thoughts that I put together before the session today that I wanted to share. Let me just get to that. But before I'm getting to my thoughts, I want to mention three things. Number one is naturally our field trip to Kansas City to check properties and to look at investment properties that was scheduled for the end of this month is canceled. For obvious reasons, so we decided not to continue. So for those of you who registered and did not tell me you're not coming, some of you did, so the trip is canceled. I just want to make sure. It was scheduled for I think Friday the 27th and Saturday the 28th to meet our team in Kansas City. The trip is canceled, so that's number one. Hopefully we can reschedule it soon once we know a little bit more. Number two, for those of you who are concerned about real estate and the coronavirus effect, and one big coronavirus in real estate, I kept it as a real estate in large and not just real estate investments, because the U.S. real estate investment market is definitely part of the U.S. real estate market altogether and not a separate niche. So if you want to ask, comment, post, whatever your thoughts are, I'm encouraging that, because I think what I've been lacking this week is where is the place to kind of read or hear opinions. So at the top, I do want you, and I see Nir. Thank you, Nir. Good to see you again, my friend. Glad to have you, of course. I see that you already placed something. I appreciate participating on this session in the live and on the recording to give us your thoughts, your opinion, your questions, your uncertainty. I know we are in an interesting time. Coronavirus, we are in an interesting time, but it seems like a lot of changes are going on as we speak, such as My son's school, they announced that they're moving to, as of next week, moving to remote schooling. So again, a new term, remote schooling, and not homeschooling. So they're doing remote schooling as of next week. I hear they're not the only one. We hear of many events being canceled, suspended, delayed. There's multiple effects happening with the tourism and traveling industries, and in the probably entertainment industry. So for me, it brings a lot of thoughts and ideas, and kind of in my mind, I keep thinking about it. I try to reflect as someone who's been through the crash of 2008 in a big way. I would say, somewhat in the middle of that storm. To that crash, I have also been involved or invested heavily in the post-Katrina, that's 2005. So I have seen on a very local incident what a storm, a tropical storm can do to an area, how it can devastate it. And by the way, the biggest devastation in Katrina, I think, well, I don't want to speak out of place, but in my personal opinion, the biggest immediate post devastation of Katrina was not the storm itself, but was how the government treated that area. That's actually sad to say. So I reflect to those areas of uncertainty, of craziness, and that's where I'm coming from, and trying to kind of decide or draw some ideas. A couple of things that I thought about, and again, I'm sharing this with you. I'm thinking out loud. I want to hear your thoughts as well. So I really hope thank you, Nir, for contributing. I wish, or I hope more people will add to this session so we can actually brainstorm, because who really knows what's going on? I mean, who really knows what will happen? I think there's a lot of uncertainty, and what I see that people in uncertainty usually just decide to do nothing, at least for the time being. And obviously that makes perfect sense. But mostly what I get throughout the week is people asking me about what the opportunities that we will come out of this, and I'm sure some opportunities will come out. The one thing that I am a little bit shocked about when I read is when people say, "Oh, our market is still very strong and very hot, and a lot of demand," and it could be true. But for me, when it comes to actions that we're taking at least a month back, so the real estate is usually the closing transaction, purchases, sales of today are something that happened a month ago or so, right? The decision was made 20 days ago, a month and a half ago. So it cannot be something that we can reflect and say, oh, because the market is hot now, that's exactly what it will continue doing, obviously. So that's kind of one thing I have noticed, that when I read it online, I'm like, this is very presumptuous. How can someone say something like this? But yeah, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. What they will, how they're affecting is, first of all, we're seeing a very, very low interest rate, mortgage interest rate, which actually encourages people to borrow and refinance. Maybe someone who's refinancing and even pulling money out will not be a buyer at the moment, or maybe will sit on their funds for a while. Maybe they'll say, hey, there's an opportunity here. But definitely people who are sitting on the sideline and kind of debating, even with the uncertainty, they may jump in and decide to purchase. One part of me saying, if we are seeing or about to see that material costs are going to go either up, material costs that are coming from abroad either going to go up because they're not coming as smoothly, the supply chain interruption we're seeing, then that will affect primarily new construction. So I think new construction may have an effect, may be affected. I'm thinking out loud in terms of increase of prices and or interruption on deliveries. And if that happens with a combination of low rates, there's maybe going to be more pressure on the existing home sales, and existing home sales will actually, if that's going to happen, again, the possible scenario may push prices up already in a market that has been kind of creeping up or going up in recent months and years. So that may have interruption to the new construction, may create more pressure on the existing home sales and increase prices. Of course, everything is a guess here, because I think the biggest question is what's going to be the massive behavior of us. How are we going to react in the coming weeks or months that will affect those things? There's a lot of changes going on in terms of people moving, shifting over from I think the remote employment or the remote position or the remote working, something that it's not new. There's nothing new about it, but I think it's just going to go put more pressure on people moving to their houses to work. That may create more pressure long term on people. Need to adjust how their living situation is to accommodate that. It all depends, obviously, how long we're going to continue having this virus around us. So there's multiple scenarios that can affect, actually, in a good way, the real estate market. And even if it creates a situation where the market actually slows and goes into a crisis mode, real estate market, I mean, then that may also create an opportunity for us who are buying, who wants to continue buying. Let's see, again, just for those who just joined a little bit later, a couple of things I want to mention just as a side note. Number one, there is a link to a Facebook group that is focused on coronavirus and real estate, a discussion we can resume beyond this session. Number two, I am not a futurist. I do not have the answers. I wish I would, but I want you to put, put comments, your thoughts, your questions, your suggestions, kind of, so we make this session as a more of a brainstorming session, an opportunity to express, ask, collaborate, and not an opportunity to just hear someone talks about it, because I do not have the question. So contributing here. So let's see what Nir is already putting here, so we can all. I don't think something big will happen. There is no rush to sell, as you cannot really protect yourself or move anywhere that the virus is free. Interesting, agree. My main impact now is my siding roof project is on hold, as my tenant do not want the crew to come to them. Interesting. So the problem with the project is actually due to the tenant resisting the crew, and not for the crew. Is the crew willing to show up? Is the problem with getting the crew over? I'm just wondering. Project may delay due to schools closures and general fear. Agreed, absolutely. Thank you, Nir. I think that impact will be in flip schedule and much longer time frame. That's a very good point. And wondering if you are in a situation where you have a flip project, how are you trying to accommodate that in order to, or mitigate that? That's a very interesting point. Also, I don't think that people are ready to move, as with virus, people likes to be their safe home, and less moving, exposing them to more people. Okay, gotcha, mover. So no moves, again, because of the human interaction. Of course, thank you. I know we could all be wrong here. We're trying guess game. I appreciate you contributing. Please, guys, put your thoughts. Okay. The question is, are things coming from China? The materials, is the supply chain fully interrupted or partially interrupted? Are things arriving from China, the materials, or Asia altogether, or are the materials actually, the supply is actually being interrupted and supply is not coming, and therefore it will affect prices or availability? Okay, Omer is saying we are running a flip project as usual. Thank you, Omer. Thank you for the comment. I will say so far, I have 3 projects going on, and they are being ran regularly as well. So far, there's no interruptions to them as well. Hopefully, that will continue to be the case, of course. Okay. So let me ask you this. Okay. So you're definitely seeing some interruption. By the way, we may still be in a situation where we still have supply on the shelves, but maybe again, I don't know, but maybe the supply of materials is interrupted what will come. So maybe soon fixtures and materials coming from Asia is going to be interrupted. That's a possibility. So that's actually a good point. If you are actually running a renovation project, you may want to start stocking up on supplies just in case you want there's going to be some interruption with the supply of materials or increasing prices. So you may want to be in that situation that you are stocking up. I think that's a very good point. So I have one conclusion so far: maybe buy supply material or supply materials that is coming from Asia, or other areas actually, or maybe non-US based manufacturing. So that's something that can be interrupted. Maybe stock up on that. That's a very good point. Okay. One other thing that I am looking at, by the way, is I have 2 or 3 Airbnbs, and I'm actually looking into converting them into long-term rentals. Just because the Airbnb, I'm not sure. I'm still kind of trying to figure out if the Airbnbs are based on travelers, and travelers are people are not traveling much right now. So here's my thought. On one end, people still will probably travel, not necessarily by plane. Even they drive, instead of flying their 7-hour trip, may travel for family or for some reason or work by car. And there's a very good chance they may want to stay not in a hotel, but to avoid, and actually would stay in an Airbnb. If that's the case, the Airbnb, could actually, or the short-term rentals could actually benefit. On the other hand, if altogether, even with a little bit of push from people who don't want to stay in hotels, and on the other hand, traveling is kind of going down. So short-term rentals overall will suffer. So it depends. I guess that the question is, who are the guests that are coming to our short-term rentals? They convention goers and big events goers, and then that will probably cease to happen. Or if they're maybe in a town that doesn't have a lot of, or area doesn't have a lot of hotels, and people still travel for family, and they will just shift from airline traveling to car traveling and avoid hotels. That may actually create more demand for short-term rentals. So Ali is saying, I've seen Airbnb prices slash near Lake Tahoe and Yosemite. Obviously, those are classical areas for vacation and traveling, and not work or family, I would say, for the most part. So obviously, that's affecting those things. That actually makes me, next week look into converting at least one of my houses into a long-term rental, or looking into it, which I was already debating, because I've seen the numbers, and I've seen that between a very nice Airbnb income compared to the actual net after everything I have in my pocket, it's already that point that kind of makes me question if the Airbnb altogether is preferable. And I'm already thinking about that idea of converting that house to additional rental. Now with the Airbnb maybe going down, that actually makes my decision even more obvious towards the traditional. Again, I'm not sure, because the reason I hold this house as an Airbnb is because I want the flexibility of generating income while I'm listing it for sale. So it actually serves a very good purpose for me to have an Airbnb house listed for sale, because it offsets my ongoing costs. But I'm debating, right? If I bring in long-term rental, that will actually lock the person and the property in for the long term, obviously. So again, thank you for everyone who's joining us a little bit late. We are, I can't see the time here. We're 25 minutes in. This is not a typical session. This is not me taking a topic and tackling and talking and teaching and explaining and sharing, the educational aspect of it. This is actually a session to kind of think together on the consequences of what's going on between the coronavirus and real estate. We talked about flips. We talked about short-term rentals a little bit. In the aspect of flips, we talked about taking care of supplies. For those of you who are joining, I ask that you don't just be passive, but actually contribute. If you can share with us a little bit what your thoughts are. A few people are already doing this. I think that'll be terrific. That will definitely help make this not just a very passive session, but more of an engaging session. By the way, get used to it, because right now it seems like sessions like this one are what we are gonna see more in the coming future. And I'm talking about not the web session aspect of it, but the engagement session aspect of it. So I do want to thank Omer and Nir for being proactive contributors, and Ali, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I think it's helpful. And I prepared some notes for myself. Okay, so a couple of things. Okay, so one thing that I kind of thought about that could help many of us in this type of a situation or session is that instead of trying to figure out what will happen, which is a very philosophical question, a very big, kind of something that's hard to kind of answer, I would try to ask myself, okay, so I have 2 short-term rentals in Indianapolis. What should I do? Or I have rental properties in Tampa. What should I do? Or I have X number of houses listed for sale in, let's say, Chicago. What should I do? So bring that question from a very philosophical, kind of something that is hard to answer to my world. I am a flipper. I am about to finish my renovation. I'm about to list a house for sale. Will someone buy it? Obviously, we don't know the answer. Maybe yes, maybe no. There's many, anytime we finish a flip project, those questions come up. Now we're trying to figure out what's going to happen, in the market itself. What are my backup plans? Can I rent it out? Can I do something else? Short-term rental, long-term rentals, whatever, in case I don't see buyers, I don't see traffic. So start thinking about backup options just in case. If you have a flip and it's about to be completed, maybe put it on the rent, put it for sale, maybe put it now for sale. I have a house that it's about a month, maybe 3 weeks from completion, and we were supposed to put it on the market this weekend. It may be delayed a little bit into next week. So I'm putting a house earlier on the market for sale before it's completed. I have 2 more in the pipelines that I plan to put later in the month, maybe towards the end of the month, list them for sale before we are completing the renovation, but in more of a progress stage. And the main purpose is start seeing, if there's any traction, if people are interested, if I have potential buyers, etc. So I can get a feel. So I'm definitely not waiting for the full completion of the renovation in order to list the house for sale. Something you can consider. And in my mind, I'm already thinking, okay, what's the next step? How much I'm going to give it? And based on that, I will definitely look into short-term rentals, maybe long-term rentals, maybe. It's kind of tricky. We'll have to see, but definitely something that I'm debating on and I'm thinking out loud with you. So something that we are considering. I think the one point that I'm taking from this session myself is to call my GCs and say, hey, start stocking up on materials, so we can be ready. For me, buying materials in advance, it's always a tricky proposition, and I wonder if any of you are doing flips or renovations, how do you tackle this? On one end, it makes perfect sense to buy materials in advance, right? Especially right now. On the other hand, where do you store them? If you store them on site and they're not in a locked room, which in many houses being renovated, then materials tends to disappear and go places. So that's a challenge. If the house is in a shady area, that may be, people will see that the materials are coming, and they may target the house for theft. Even when you have insurance, that's still a hassle and trouble, etc. So the big question for me with buying materials in advance, if I store them off-site, they may have, legs a way to disappear as well. Maybe if I have a garage that I can lock it in, that's something that could work. And of course, I'm not talking about, we're always going to have materials on site, but I'm talking about really buying a lot of stuff at the same time, maybe renting some sort of a container and locking things like outside. That's another possibility. So I'm wondering what kind of ways you guys are tackling this. Storage locker is a good idea. What I found that with storage locker, things can disappear from there as well. Maybe it varies from one state to another, but typically when it goes to the storage, this is not your, it may not be considered your materials, and if something disappears, it may not be covered under the insurance. I'm talking about theft, of course. So that's always a tricky proposition or a tricky problem. I think maybe if renting some sort of a storage on site, like a container, that could probably be a good way, and only one person, the GC, has access to it. I think that could be a good way to go about it. Maybe look into it. Let's see other thoughts that we, so one thing is material. Second thing that we talked about as a possible conclusion is converting, in some settings, converting short-term rentals into long-term rentals. Converting, or the third thing we talked about is maybe not debating in a very high-level philosophical discussion or asking the universe for philosophical questions, but actually keeping it very grounded. Here's my situation. I have a flip. I have a rental. I'm in this market. I'm doing this, and keep it in your own. I'm about to purchase. I'm about to sell. I'm about to do. Be very specific. I think when it comes to economy, philosophical questions are hard to tackle and answer, and practical questions. Should I buy in Indianapolis a rental property? Yes or no? Should I list my house that I'm finishing the renovation in 2 months? Should I list it now, wait a month, or list it when it's completed? All those things, in my opinion, will make our ability to answer and respond more pragmatic and practical. Gotcha. So Nir, thank you for the comments. I think you are more thinking of your own local activity when you are on the ground. A lot of the people that are involved with this session are renovating remotely. So that means there's a GC or some other person on the ground over there that is actually handling or overseeing the supply. So that's the tricky part here, that we have to make sure the GC is well. You have to, as an owner, to make sure the GC has the ability to protect materials, in a proper way. Good points. I appreciate the feedback, Nir. Well, again, guys, this is a discussion, not a lecture. So your contribution, your thoughts, your questions are something that would be appreciated for the discussion. I'm a little bit surprised that all the people that ask questions, philosophical and pragmatic throughout the week, kind of are not here or not involved. Again, just a reminder, on the number one comment, there is a link to a website, to a Facebook group that is fully focused on coronavirus and real estate. And again, real estate in a broader sense of things, not in the narrow sense of things. So you're most welcome to continue the conversation on there as well. Okay, and you're saying once I use an enclosed lock trailer in a remote flip, only the GC and me had keys. Great idea. I like that. That's something that definitely I will look into for sure. Okay. Very good, you guys. Let's see if we have more comments coming in. This is, again, the session is an open discussion for you to benefit, for you to collaborate, and not for me to teach. I'm actually here as an active moderator, participant. I want to learn. I want to hear. I think that's good. Only when we engage, we come up with suggestion and idea. Nir, I think I'm going to make you my co-moderator for the session. I appreciate it. So again, let's hear from you. I pretty much covered everything that I have thoughts and about, and this is where I'm actually eager to hear from you, what you're thinking. Again, when I say you, I don't mean Nir. I mean those of you that are watching, that are listening. Some of you I know personally. I know you have opinions and ideas and suggestions. So by all means, do contribute so we can all benefit from the many minds, smart, sharp minds that are here right now. Okay. All right. If that's the case, that's fine. I think we can call it a wrap for today. I don't see any additional comments and feedback coming in the comments here. So I wanna first of all wish everybody health and safety, and I hope we will, in several months or even sooner, we will all look at this crazy time with a smile or with a wink, and hopefully the summer is coming and maybe affecting this virus. I really hope so. I wish I had more smart and intelligent insights to give you direct and specific answers. I do invite you to resume or to continue the conversation on our Facebook group, Coronavirus and Real Estate. Their link is there. So we can, I try to put, to add stuff and comment and post and articles, and people already are contributing as well. So hopefully that will help. This is definitely a new territory for all of us, and with some uncertainty. The things are evolving somewhat on a daily basis. And with that said, I want to wish everyone. Have a great rest of the day. Have a great weekend. Stay healthy, of course. And hopefully we can resume the conversation here, live or offline as well. And with that said, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Stay healthy. Bye-bye from California. Bye-bye, everyone.